Good afternoon, Baton Rouge. In case you missed it, you are tuned into 91.1 KLSU Baton Rouge, and since it is by my clock just about 3:01, you are listening to The Breakdown, KLSU's weekly news wrap-up show. I'm your host, Mel Bridges, joined today by...
Hey everybody, this is Claire Hambrice, one of our new news reporters.
And this is Claire's very, very first show. I am so excited. You may recognize Claire's voice from all the updates she's been doing. She's been doing a phenomenal job with them, and I am so excited that she is on air with us for the Sunday show. So before we start off with everything, I just wanted to open up by saying that yesterday was KLSU's fundraiser kickoff. Woo! We were both there, and it was a really, really good time. Claire, this was your first fundraiser, right? This was your first kickoff?
Yes, it was. It was so exciting to see everybody come out and support, and I think we just had a great time.
It really was a great time. I would like to thank everybody who came out, and I would like to thank all the staff that volunteered there. If you missed it, no worries. You can still support KLSU all throughout our fundraiser week, which is coming up next week. We will talk about that as the show wraps up, but just keep that on your mind as you're listening. But for eagle-eared listeners of the show, you might notice that we sound a little weird. Claire and I are sharing a mic this fine Sunday because we have the distinct honor and pleasure of interviewing not one, but two Baton Rouge music greats. We have in the booth with us Henry Turner Jr. and Kevin White, two musicians, charitable workers very involved in the Baton Rouge community. Gentlemen, welcome, and of course, thank you for being here.
Thank you very much, Mel.
Thank you for having us.
Absolutely. It is our pleasure. We are going to start off this program by conducting a little interview of these two. I am so excited about this. This has been in the planning for a little bit now, and I'm so happy that we made it happen. So we are going to kick things off with a little introductory segment. So who are you, gentlemen, and what exactly is it that you do?
I'm Henry Turner Jr. I'm a music entrepreneur in the city. And I started as a musician, of course, and 30 years of touring and producing, writing, performing. And then I returned to the community to establish a listening room and then to establish some community festivals, and basically what I like to do is mix it up with the community, find up-and-coming talent, expose it, sometimes produce it, and give it performance opportunities so our music community can stay, solvent and grow.
My name is Kevin White, and I'm a seasoned musician by way of the club, historical club Tabby's Blues Box, and I've had a chance to tour locally as well as internationally. And I've lived away from Baton Rouge for probably the last maybe 30, 40 years, and I've returned, and I'm here. I've been here the last 3 years, but I'm still producing and writing songs and performing. And so being back here, it's the listening room is my new place of interest. It's my new home, the Henry Turner Listening Room.
Well, welcome back. We're happy to have you back in BR. So our first question is going to come from Claire, and it is going to be for Mr. Turner.
Mr. Turner, that is so interesting, but I just wanted to ask you, what does a day in the life look for you as a producer, a musician, a vocalist, a guitar player, and a composer? How do you manage all of those descriptions?
For me, Claire, that's an interesting proposition because, when I wake up in the morning, I'm thinking about, all the different hats I wear and what's important that day to accomplish. If I'm working on a festival, then the logistics of the festival and the things that I have to accomplish to make the festival happen is my priority. As I'm moving through my day, I may see something socially, politically, or, in some religious perspective or some kind of something that may move me or impact me that I think will make good song content. And I might grab my telephone and hit my recorder and say a few words or sing a melody or something, and I've captured that moment to come back to it later on to work on it, right? And at the same time, I'm fielding phone calls from my listening room. I'm dealing with the inner workings of my office at home, the office of the listening room, the production, people, and just trying to oversee everything and make sure everything goes on track. For instance, for the next 4 weeks, we just started our blues camp on Saturday. And a blues camp is all about blues, exposing people to blues. So we take one song, we break it down over a 5-week period, and we have sessions on Saturday from like 12 noon to 1:30. And my direct focus is on that at the moment, right? But at the same time, everything else is still going. We have a television show. So my television show covers community-based concept about, talent, music business, personalities, people touring through, stuff like that. And we're capturing it, putting it all into a television format, 48 minutes, which equals 1 hour for commercial TV. And we're sending that out to the rest of the world. We just closed deals with Canada, with Edgy TV. We're on in Lafayette 5 days a week, Salem, Oregon 5 days a week. So we're flipping all that through the script too while we're doing everything else. And we're capturing every time we do something, we're recording it. Excuse me. And putting that in the mix. So that gives you some idea. Now remember, when you get into entrepreneurship, there are components that drive it. And every day, this stuff is at the forefront of your mind. Marketing, producing, manufacturing, financing, working on those things to make sure that those things are available when you need them, funding, the whole nine. But just a sneak preview. I mean, there's a lot I could get into, but we don't want to dominate, the time.
No worries. That's very interesting, the components that go into running everything. Our next question is from our news reporter, Coco Evans, and it is for both of you gentlemen. Growing up in Louisiana, as you both did, how did the culture and atmosphere around you help mold you into the person and musician that you are today?
I'll let Kevin take that one first.
Well, coming up, the stuff your family listened to, the family encounters, the musicians that you run into, and then just even your peer group that's having an impact on you. But mostly hanging around Tabby's Blues Box and hanging around experienced musicians. And basically, the life experiences here in Louisiana is what, everything that you're encountering, family, your peers, older artists helping to guide you and sort of help you to develop into, what I am today here. And so that's what helped me as in my music here in Louisiana.
Me, on the other hand, I was totally conflicted in Louisiana growing up. I was looking at the community, and I saw several tiers of it. And I saw I saw a plethora of groups of people that were doing isolated things. I saw the rock community, the country community, the blues community, the funk community, the R&B community. And I was looking for some financial stability as a young person. So I looked at demographics mostly. And I thought the best move for me musically would be the American Top 40. Because I knew I could go and play college campuses. I could go and, play crossover clubs. And when I say crossover clubs, I mean clubs that would have a multi-genre format, plus it would have a level of community involvement. So I was looking for those places that would financially give me some stability. The Top 40 scene for me was a way to really embrace the whole community. I can remember, as a 18-year-old, 19-year-old playing music, coming down to LSU or going over to Tulane University or going over to McNeese State or something, or going up to Ruston and playing fraternity parties on a, Saturday night, whatever. And, hanging out with the fraternities and sororities and all the different people who were doing all that kind of stuff and had a good budget to do it with, so I was thinking from that perspective. Now, musically, I started as like what I call a front porch connoisseur. sitting on my front porch with an acoustic guitar, faking it. And somebody stop by and be like, no, let me show you how to do this. And, to the point where my parents was like, okay, it's obvious that you're into this. Let's get you some guitar lessons and see what happens, whatever. So, from the streets to the private lessons and then into, I was always in the school band, played drums in a band and stuff like that. So I understood rhythm. And then when I started with the guitar, it was a whole nother thing because it attracted a whole nother instrumental perspective. And, I started gathering this plethora of musicians who played instruments, so which ultimately leads to formulating bands. My first band was Backyard Funk, right? Backyard Funk was exactly what it sounds like. Some guys in the backyard trying to play some funk, and we were impacted by bands like Earth, Wind and Fire, Brass Construction, the Commodores, Confunction, and then locally from New Orleans, Chocolate Milk, the Meters, people like that were impacting us. And we were really excited about learning those songs. I remember when I learned the first line to a song called I Believe in Miracles. And it was just one simple guitar line. Dun, da-dun, dun, 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 da-dun, da-dun, dun. And I sat around and played it for hours, because I had learned it and it was so cool. And we all learned that line and we didn't even try to learn the rest of the song. We just sat around playing that, drumming and playing the line.
Right.
And so the influence, though, from the community with the artists, like Chocolate Milk, the Meters, and people like that from New Orleans. And then that was Black Blood and Chocolate Pickles from Baton Rouge. That was, just in my peer group, 10 years older or 5 years younger. And all of these people were recording artists, and they had a sound. Baton Rouge had its sound. New Orleans had its sound. And then that was the top 40, So playing around with all of that kind of helped shape and mold me. And then I got out and started touring and kind of went everywhere. Went out of the country a little bit and did some things. And then when you mature and you get older, I remember doing an interview and somebody asked me about Slim Harpo, right? And Slim Harpo was sort of like a family friend member. His wife was married to, her sister was married to my first cousin. But my father was 57 when I was born. So my first cousin was like 50 years old when I was like 10 or 11 or something. So psychologically, the whole thing in a nutshell, it's like a whole totally different generation. But I had the opportunity to meet these people when I was a very young kid. And somebody asked me about the guy, and I remember thinking, wow, yeah, I remember the guy. It's the guy who used to have the rag wrapped around his head and everything, because they used to take like a stocking and tie it onto their head to keep the waves in their hair and stuff like that. And to me, that was just like something that I saw. I had no idea what they were doing or why they were doing it. And I recorded these people in my brain as those people who did that, right? And only to find out later that people like the Rolling Stones and different other people had covered their music. This guy, he grew up and lived right down the street from where I grew up. So I could literally walk a half a block and be right in front of his house while they rehearsed and played in their backyard. So culturally, music was all around me, and I was immersed in it, but I wasn't quite alert enough, as a young teen to really understand it. But later, looking back on the history of it, it was a whole different thing. It's like because you're immersed in music in the South. And that's what fascinated people all over the world about the culture of the South, because of the way we're grassroots, but we're like really, really rooted in learning things that are astronomical and turned into phenomenal talent. So, but just a quickie, just to give you some insight. Hopefully that helped.
Oh, it did. Thank you so much for the insight. It's true that we are really lucky to be in an area with a lot of musical history and, arguably more importantly, musical potential. And it's great to see people like yourselves taking that potential and turning it into reality. Our next question comes again from Coco. Claire, would you like to take this one?
Yeah, so Coco wanted to ask you guys if you could take us through a moment when you were given the Henry Turner Jr. Day on October 28th, 2017, and how that potentially made you feel.
Oh, that was really interesting. If you do something that you do every day, right, and it's something you're committed to, something that you know is the right thing to do, but other people look at it and they deem it phenomenal, right? And one day they walk up to you and say, hey, I'd like to acknowledge everything you're doing. That's how it felt for me. It was like, well, I've been doing this for like 30 years, 40 years. So what? Okay, all right, well, that's cool. But what happens in a political sense and in the social realm, people have to have cultural, icons. They have to have purveyors and connoisseurs and people that are going to drive the social aspect of cultural entertainment in Louisiana. The lieutenant governor's office, the governor's office, the mayor's office. A lot of budgets are predicated on tourism, cultural icons being present, and the advent of having these torchbearers in your community. So when I was presented in 2017, you have to keep in mind that a lot of our landscaping for cultural icons were changing. We had lost Happy Thomas, we had lost Rayful Neal, we had lost a lot of great, music people. So they were looking for that next generation of who's going to, carry the torch and who's going to do the work. Well, it's easy. When you look out into a community, you look at the people who are doing the work and you say, hey, I crown you. It's that simple. It's that simple, So then therefore they get the credit and you get access, Perfect marriage, I think. When it's happening, you're not really realizing the totality of what's happening. But once it has manifested, you go, wow, I think I might just took the guy's job to die. That's what it feels like. I'm serious. So I hope that explains it and, whatever. I mean, it's quite an honor, to have those things, but that it's really like an unpaid job, so you're accessing the cultural economy, of course, and you're accessing the influence of the social community, and of course the endorsement of the political community. But at the same time, it's a job.
Right. So what I'm hearing is, if you were ever to run for office, this would be at the top of your resume.
Probably so. Probably so. Well, and I have been asked a couple times, you should do this. You should run for councilman. You should do, so people, they look at it. A lot of people are calculating every number that exists as a potential win for whatever, collective group of people, as opposed to my mindset is how many more torchbearers can we make? How much more budget can we create for this type of thing? And when do we start? And of course, they're seeing it from the opposite. So, and I get that too, because everybody see life from their perspective. We talk about paradigms and stuff. I remember when I first started producing music, and I heard a producer say to me, he says, depending on the paradigm, on how I'm going to produce this track. And I said, what? Depending on the paradigm. I said, man, come on, you can hear this track. It's a funky track, bro. We talking music. And he says, no, well, see, man, if I could get a hold of somebody that's running for office and they need a good theme song and they put up $50,000, we're going to change the lyrics up a little bit, bro. And we're going to look at it from a different paradigm. So what he's saying is, we're going to look at it from the perspective that we're going to win. So you could be looking at this one object, but you see it from your side, that's what you see. I see it from my side, that's what I see. You see it from that side. You see what I'm saying? So everybody's looking at the same thing, but they're seeing a different paradigm, so... and I think the music social economical mindset makes for that. It makes that happen. Because everybody's seeing it differently. Everybody.
Yeah, we here at News are all about perspectives and paradigms and what have you. That's a really interesting way to sort of tie it to music. I feel like it's very easy to say, well, you have to look at news or sports or from different perspectives. But I feel like I don't hear a lot of people say that you have to look at music from different perspectives. That's a very interesting perspective.
Yeah, absolutely.
we're going to move on to the next question. And this one is mine, which is what makes Baton Rouge specifically such a good spot for your listening room, or alternatively to play music like y'all do?
You want to try that one?
Sure. Well, there's always a need for music, and in providing it, as you said, Louisiana has a really broad and deep history of music. So with some of the icons dying out, it's really good to have a place to play. There's not many places. I don't know of like any other place like the listening room here in the city of Baton Rouge, probably even throughout the country. But for the most part, it's really good to have a place for live music, for live art. And it's a place that does only original music, and it's for original film, whatever original art form you're doing, that's a good outlet for it. And then in addition to that, it also is a place of entertainment for the locals as well as touring people. And so because it has a tourist attraction, those people that are coming along in a tourist sense, they're also going to add to the economy when they rent rooms and go to the restaurants. So it's a win-win situation, but it's good to have a place to do music here in the city of Baton Rouge, just to kind of keep the culture going.
So that's one perspective. It's a way to look at it, right?
It all ties back to the perspective.
Yeah. For me, I always look at market gaps, and I look at when I look at business, I look at like yielding fruit from whatever it is you're trying to do, producing. If you're going to grow corn, you look at some place where traditionally corn has been grown. The terrain is good. The soil is already ready for it, and you can do it. If you was to go over to like Arizona, go out in the desert and try to grow a garden, how difficult that's going to be. The same with music. If you're in a place that has a traditional cultural economy, and a lot of the focus has been on music, film, art, entertainment. When you think about Louisiana, you think about food and music. That's the first thing people think about from anywhere in the world. So Baton Rouge has its place in that particular, view. Now, from the Lieutenant Governor's office, they actually have a cultural map musically. So if I just say some words, if I say, I want you to tell me what kind of music is in New Orleans, then what would you say?
Oh, gosh.
Bluesy.
Oh, yeah, definitely bluesy. Jazz.
See, you say jazz.
Sure.
Yeah.
You say jazz because it is a jazz capital. And then if I say, let's go down to Opelousas and Lafayette, what kind of music do you think's down there?
I would assume also jazz or something that's very jazz adjacent.
Well, if you're rooted in Louisiana music, you're going to know that's the home of Zydeco.
Yeah.
Right? It's the home of Zydeco. So that cultural map is set up that way in the state. Baton Rouge is known for blues. There's been 3 generations of legendary bluesmen from Baton Rouge that have impacted the whole world, starting with Slim Harpo and then on down to Larry Thomas and Ray Flanell and people like that. And there's still young bluesmen growing every day from all perspectives, from all walks of life, from all ethnicities. So when you think about it like that, then Louisiana is like a music mecca. It's like Baton Rouge, New Orleans, Shreveport, Lafayette. Then you go to the next state, Houston, Austin, Dallas. These are all like places where it's evergreen for music. And you can establish things. Now, for me, being from Baton Rouge, even when I play reggae and funk music, I could be in another part of the country, and they'll say, "You from Baton Rouge, man? You got to play some blues, bro. I know you play some blues." And I'm like, "Well, I'm out here on a reggae tour. We're doing the Bob Marley Festival tour, and we're gonna play some reggae funk." They be like, "Yeah, but I know you know some blues, don't you?" You know, I mean, I actually forged a relationship with guys from Africa and Jamaica and different places based on the bass. They showed me a little bit about reggae, and I showed them a little bit about blues, because you grow up with blues when you're in Baton Rouge. So for me, the real cultural currency is blues, right? So being from Baton Rouge, you may as well claim that, and you may as well hone in on the fact that you can take advantage of it if you're a musician. You know, the only tourism musically that happens in Baton Rouge is blues. People don't come to Baton Rouge looking for anything else. And there are a lot of other great kinds of music here in Baton Rouge. They just don't come here looking for it. All of our great jazz musicians that we have here in Baton Rouge, they normally play in New Orleans, and eventually they move to New Orleans, because New Orleans is a jazz capital. So if they're to survive, they're going to have to go there, right? And a lot of blues guys come to Baton Rouge because you can always find some blues music here and places to play. You know, so that's the perspective I looked at it from. I looked at it from a marketing perspective. I looked at it from a cultural economy perspective, a cultural currency perspective. You know, where could it have the most impact and value? We get tourists that stop in from they fly in from France or Germany, come to New Orleans. They go New Orleans, Baton Rouge, Lafayette, back to New Orleans, fly out. So that lets you know what they think, about Louisiana and how they see where the music is and where they're going to find what type of music or whatever. So, we get call after call, as we're riding around or we're doing stuff, people calling, hey, what's at the listening room tonight? Who's playing tonight? You going to have any soul food tonight? I mean, because normally it's some music and food, right? I mean, it's a given, you know what I'm saying? So the people pretty much dictate and let you know what you have to serve up to them and how to make it happen. Now, me being an entrepreneur and looking at music from an entrepreneurial perspective always, why? Because first, you want to be able to survive from your craft, right? And you want to be able to maximize your potential earning power. So when I established my listening room, I did it all based around original music, which means you have to write, perform, or produce to be able to play there. So if you're an artist, then you need a writer. If you're a producer, you need an artist that's going to sing your stuff if you want to be there and be present. Why? What's the reason for that? The reason for that is because if someone wants to do business, they have to get to the source. So if I wanted to use your song, I need to get permission from you or your producer or your manager. Somebody has to give that right to me to use it. But that also means you're not going to walk in and I'm playing, a Rolling Stone song, which I have no rights to. And then you come to me and say, hey, man, I really love what you do, man. You want to be in my movie? And I go, well, I can't because this is not my song. If you're in the listening room, it's going to be your song. So you get a chance to talk to them about, some business.